of course, the joke is, Susie, the big, as a small developer, you think, great, I've got some national covenants. Wow.
Yes, I know exactly what you're going to say.
I've got the badge. I'm proud that I've managed to do that. And they're the bastards who haven't paid, of course.
Absolutely.
Well, of course. The local ones try and pay. You know, they try.
They do.
I've got a new rule, and my rule is this, that tell me about what you do, because obviously you've got it all going on by the looks of things.
Yeah, it's pretty busy. So when these people are saying that they're finding time for lockdown hobbies, I'm thinking, how are they finding the time?
Me too.
Yeah. So just a bit of a recap then. I'm a chartered surveyor. I've been a chartered surveyor for about 25 years now, showing my age. Impressive. And I started my career in CBRE. Well, it was a firm called Hillier Parker, which was bought by CBRE.
I remember Hillier Parker.
Do you? Yeah. One of those lovely old partnerships that had the walnut offices for all the directors, and it was fantastic. And I cut my teeth managing Regent Street, which in those days was a bit shoddy, so that was good, and was industrial and offices. And then I went to a company called Chartwell Land, which was the development arm of the Kingfisher Company, which was Woolworths, NBC, B&Q, and then went on to work for B&Q for 6 years, where I was acquiring their large store formats for them, so acquiring the sites and getting the planning and developing out the large format stores. And then, of course, they were in a race for space with Homebase, and then that all dried up overnight. You know, they'd grown their market share to such a degree that actually it became a cost base rather than a profit center in property. So at that point, I kind of jumped ship and went to Land Securities, now Landsec, which has until recently been the UK's largest real estate investment trust, but it got overtaken by the industrial guys recently, because for obvious reasons. Well, I
would do. I mean, that's a serious pedigree you've got there. I mean, crikey, you know, you've worked for some really big companies, haven't you?
Yeah, and I worked for, when I was at Landsec, I managed big portfolios of retail. So latterly, I was director managing a £2.7 billion worth of shopping centres.
Amazing.
But decided the corporate world wasn't for me at that point, so I jumped ship, set up Strong Oak Investments Limited, which is my investment arm, and started investing in about 2015. And I still do consultancy for clients, so I'm managing a £237 million GDV scheme at the moment for a local authority in London, doing a student housing mixed-use scheme. And I've recently set up an education arm as well, so I'm writing an online course at the moment, which should be finished soon.
Funny you should say that, because apparently I'm going to be doing that.
Okay. All right, we should compare notes.
I've written three books, and I mean, you can tell I'm not the most. If my English teacher knew I've written 3 books, he'd get out of his grave he's probably in now and shake his head in disbelief, to be fair. So my books are very matter of fact, down to, all about my experiences over 40 years, really.
Brilliant.
And I was saying earlier to someone, I wouldn't say I'm an educator, because I think that's too strong a word for me probably. But I do these seminars where I just speak for 7 hours really and ask people's questions, but mainly about my experiences and what I've developed and what to be careful of or not, and so on really. So, but apparently I'm going to do, according to Ferris, I'm going to do some courses, but they're going to be sensibly priced. And I think this education, I don't know about you, Susie, but it's so unprofessional, most of it, and the people involved. I mean, you must just look at it and go, "What's a joke?" I mean,
absolutely.
These people have never done anything. They've hardly, they've never even hardly bought a property. And look what you've done and what you've achieved. And you're now thinking of doing it. And, and these people have done it for 2 or 3 years, and they're telling everyone about their experiences. I mean, it's a joke.
I couldn't agree more. I think, and that's kind of what's kind of pushed me to do it, was that actually everyone who's teaching about commercial property in the space, not everybody, there's a couple, but they basically teach one strategy, and they're not doing anything other than that. And
exactly. They are a complete, utter bunch of amateurs. And I wrote the book, my first book I wrote, because I was just frustrated really about the advice people were getting and how bad it was. I mean, there is some good educators out there. I'm not saying there isn't, but I mean, these people, it's just unbelievable. And I, you know, I do some seminars. I get like 6-8 people on them. They're all very nice. They've all got a bit of money. You know, they want to do a bit more. But I mean, it's all very low key, really. And you just think some of these people get 500 to 700 to 1,000 people in a room.
No, I know.
Yeah, how do they do it? How do they do it?
I know, it's insane, and I wonder how many people actually go out and take action afterwards. That's the point.
Exactly.
Now,
isn't it? That's the vital part.
Yeah, I would say that. And to be fair, they are these people that take these courses, if you like, or the events, are so clever. I mean, they could be selling how to buy and sell diamonds. They could be doing how to buy and sell shares. Property's just a commodity to them, and they're not involved in it like we are. We have been for all these years.
Yeah,
it just frustrates me. It really frustrates me. I think the whole industry should be regulated. I mean, I just cannot believe people are parting with, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. I just can't. I just don't know how they do it.
No, I agree. And if you're not going to get that money back, that's life savings, isn't it? So it's
Well, I can only think the people doing it are the ones who are desperate. Not desperate's the wrong word. Well, maybe the right word. But then again, they wouldn't have the money. So I don't understand it. I know some.
I think that they don't have any ethos behind them, and they push people's emotional buttons without having any consideration on the logic behind it, or if they're going to follow through. So they're just going to push anyone in the funnel, not qualifying them. And then, like you mentioned, they get, you know, 10 times the amount that you would get in your room. And you're wondering why. It's because most of them, 80% of them, don't qualify to be in that room in the first place. They just want their money. So at the end of it, it's ethos and touching their emotional buttons, selling them a dream bigger than they can imagine.
I think that's right. And I think do you know a lady called Vanessa Warwick? She's
yes. I don't know her personally, but I know her. Yeah,
she looks a bit scary.
She does. She looks terrifying.
She bullies me. But she's been really good for me because she latched onto me very early on. She's very passionate about people not being ripped off in all this horrible stories. She's very passionate against any rip-off merchant, which has been great for me. And she's really looked after me and told me who to speak to, because I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I've done it for a bit of fun. Really. I mean, like you're not doing it because you need the money. And that's the other difference, of course, with these educators. They need the money. Yeah. You know, they've got nothing else. So we're just doing it because we'd like to do it, and and it's I've learned an awful lot. You know, it's been good fun the last 2 years. I have to say, a year and a half. But she's very passionate about the right education and only dealing with decent people and all the rest of it. And I think
quite right.
She's well worth me introducing you to if you don't know her. Worth it if you're going to do commercial courses. And the other thing is, I wonder whether if you're doing the commercial, and I touch on commercial, and I've got commercial. I've got only 30% of my tenants paying at the moment, but there you go.
I think you're not alone there.
No, and the joke is, of course, Suzi, the big. As a small developer, you think, great, I've got some national covenants. Wow.
Yes, I know exactly what you're going to say.
I've got the badge. I'm proud that I've managed to do that. And they're the bastards who haven't paid, of course.
Absolutely.
Well, of course. The local ones try and pay. You know, they try.
They
I've got a new rule, and my rule is this, that if they're bigger than me, they can bloody well pay one way or the other. Leyland paid once in 6 months, wrote to me and said, we want 6 months rent free. I don't think so. Anyway, if they're smaller than me, financially, then I'll try and help them.
Yeah.
But if they're bigger than me, they get no help at all.
No, I couldn't agree more. Enough. And they just use their power. So what they do is they go to I've done it. I've been there. I've talked to them. You know, they go to their handful of institutional landlords that they know and have relationships with, and say, right, we're doing this. And then everyone else who isn't in that small group or that party just gets left, and they just it's like a fait accompli, isn't it? It's annoying.
Bunch of shits.
Yeah, well said.
And I won't put up with it. I mean, having said that, we had, who was the other one we got? Eurocar just rang up and said, we're not paying.
Yeah.
not even sort of, look, can we do this? Can we do that? No, just not paying. We'll let you know when we can pay. Oh,
I can't believe
do you want me to, foreclose on? Yeah, do you want me to? I said, do you want to give the keys back? They said, oh no, we have closed 40 stores or 40 offices or whatever, but depots. But yours is one we want to keep open. So
the audacity of them doing that. They're a big company. Why would they even ask? Well, they didn't even.
Well, because they know they can get, Suzi, they know they can get away with it.
They do. They do. And the trouble is that, you know, everyone, these big guys that aren't paid, they will get away with it because the supply demand balance is most definitely in the side of the, especially in retail, is most definitely on the side of the retailers now. So, you know, especially these guys that have big shopping centres, they're going to have so much vacant space after this. I mean, it's going to be like a bloodbath, isn't it?
It's going to be a carnage. I mean, I bought a department store and bits and bobs a while ago, and we had what are they called? They went bust recently, and I've sold it on for good profit, thank goodness. But they went bust.
Debenham,
they white goods sold them to poor people that really
Bright House.
People, I don't mean probably financially poor. Bright House. So they were paying 115. Yeah, they were paying 115 grand, and I thought when I bought it, the lease was running out, and I said, well, if we can keep them at 60 grand, we'll be doing well. And I think we got 65 grand out of them. And then I got planning upstairs for flats, and I flogged the whole thing on for good profit. And I signed them up on a new lease at 60 before I sold it. And they've obviously poor sons bought it off me. They've gone, you know, they've gone. But they had a number of about 5 other shops in it as well, which small shops, which, you know, will probably, some of them will survive. But I mean, I just take the view that, I don't know about you, Susie, and you know more about than I do, but I take the view that if it's a big shop, if you halve the rent on renewal, you're probably about right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. And I just think that it's going to be basically the structural post this crisis. It's going to be the structural change that's been threatened in retail for the last 5 years. It's just going to accelerate it now. So
without question, so I agree entirely with you. Totally, it's just going to accelerate it completely.
Yeah, and there's been all these zombie businesses that have just been surviving because the market's been strong.
Surviving. Well, Debenhams is a great example.
Absolutely,
of that. It's just got away with it all the time, and what happens is it does get rid of the weak, doesn't it? This market, and
it does.
And the commercial. You know, I mean, we're so used now to be speaking on Zoom like this. You know, a friend of mine's got his solicitors told him yesterday that they were going to move to some fancy new offices at 480 grand a year in the West End or somewhere like that, and they're paying 90 at the moment where they are, and they've decided they had a partners meeting via Zoom and said we're all going to keep working from home and pop in now and again to the office.
Yeah,
and we'll stay where we are, thanks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can see.
Just one company, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can see there still being a need for offices, but
yes, absolutely.
A really shrunk version, hub working, serviced offices. You know, I think it's going to be a really interesting time for offices for sure.
What about WeWork, Susie? What do you think is going to happen to them? Interesting.
Right. Well, I think they've got a flawed business model. I think that so I think the concept of what they're doing is right. But, you know, if you take the main kind of operators in that space, I mean, Regis, they mainly own their own freeholds, although they don't always. And they've been sustainable business since the 90s. And I think WeWork, basically what they've been doing is taking the head lease at too high a rent and then having too many voids, not be able to fill the space. They were always going to go. I think that this is probably going to accelerate that, unfortunately.
Yeah. There was a lot of news circulating that.
I mean, we used to call it subletting, didn't we?
Yes.
Rent to rent or some load of rubbish, you know. I mean, as if it's new, Susie. This is what
exactly.
These guys and girls come up. Oh yeah, and it's now, you know, you can rent to rent. You think, what the hell are they on about? And then you work out it's bloody subletting.
No, it's true. Yeah,
I felt like crap.
Oh, that is funny.
So John,
Susie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Susie. I was saying, do you know? Are you familiar with the auction market?
So, I've never bought anything at auction, and I've never been massively close to it in my kind of corporate career. So obviously I'm familiar with it, but I'd love to buy something at auction.
Because John, I wanted to ask you a question. Thank you for sharing that, Susie. There was something that recently came out, and they said that agents are going to receive full legal packs for their auction with no upfront costs. I mean, someone like you that's involved in auction, is this true, or is this just propaganda from news?
Well, I mean, auctions, I think, will be the first place to look when we come out, because because I mean, you know, whatever happens in the auction market happens eventually in the open market, if you like. Everything happens faster with the auction. So when the market goes down, you see it first in auctions, and you see when there's a pickup, you see it first in auctions. So, but you know, it's all changed because of this, because what's happened. You know, we owned Auction House UK. Well, we own half of it. We bought it in 2009, Susie, and we sold it sold our shares. Me and my partner sold our shares last year.
Okay.
And we trialled online auctions at the time, and it was hard, to get them going. We had 42 franchises in the end, but we couldn't get them to do online auctions. And the reason was, these bloody auctioneers love to be on a rostrum.
Yes.
The last thing they want is to be pressing the button on a computer.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So that's a problem. And we couldn't get it really going. We put a bit of money into it, never really got it going. And then we sold our shares. And now, of course, they've all been forced to do it. So whether some of them will remain doing it afterwards, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think the answer is some might, because it's a lot cheaper to do. And I think the bigger ones, the Allsops and the auction house, probably will go traditional again. But I have to admit, I'm not comfortable buying online. I mean, I probably should be, and I'll get used to it. But, I've just written a book about auctions and buying and selling auction. And I just like the fact of actually being there, Susie. And I've been buying and selling auction for 30, 35 years. But
yeah.
That's
what gets the price up.
Yeah,
and that's what gets the price up, doesn't it? One thing I did note about auctions pre-COVID was that even funds were putting their properties into auctions, weren't they? Because they were actually getting better prices than they were on the open market. Well,
the great thing, of course, Susie, is the hammer comes down, it's sold. There's no begging people to buy it for bloody 3 months with the lawyers. You can't get hold of the lawyers and all that crap. The biggest thing, though, is to make sure that the lawyer does get on with the legal pack early. So the legal pack's ready well in advance, because what happens is they don't bloody do it because it's a lot of hassle, and it's ready 4 days or 3 or 2 days before the auction. And it doesn't
apparently
effort putting it in the auction, and then you go and do that. It's stupid.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, John. Of course, knowing the knowledge that you have. But is this true that they're offering the legal packs for free? Do you think that's actually feasible?
Free anyway. I don't really understand what they mean by that, because at the end of the day, all the legal packs are online now, and you just download them. So I don't quite understand what they mean when they say they're being offered to the agents free, because they're free anyway. So I don't quite understand what they mean by that. I'll look into that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. The one thing I was going to say, Susie, before we go, is that if you want to do any events together, and you cover the commercial and I'll cover the residential, very happy to do that.
That sounds
going forward, if there's because the sort of people you're going to attract are going to be people with money.
Yes.
Because of where you've come from, what you do, you're not going to be attracting the no money down lot, and I don't attract them either, by the way.
No.
So we're going to be attracting sort of professional people who perhaps want to get into that field, or already in it and want to expand what they do, probably. So if there's anything I can help you with, and vice versa, I'm sure we could definitely do 1 or 2 events when you get going, when you do your courses or whatever. Or before, whatever you want. I'm very happy to.
No, that sounds really interesting, because I'm probably not surprised isn't the right word, but I kind of thought that a lot of my customers would be kind of newbies to commercial that maybe have been doing resi before, and I think some are, but
some will be,
but the amount of kind of quite sophisticated investors that I've got, which is nice, it's good. So definitely be interested in that.
And certainly a combination of residential investing and commercial investing is probably the perfect balance for these people, to be honest.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
One-stop shop
totally
would be good.
Yeah. So, Susie, thank you very much for taking my call. And
that's okay. It's great to speak to you.
And what I'll do, I'll drop you an email, and let's keep talking, and let's see what we can do together, because that'll be, I just think the good guys have got to stick together, because there's so many aren't.
I totally agree.
Honestly, and it's very important that we all stick together, I think, because there's
absolutely
so many bad ones.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And are you doing any developments? Did you have any in the pipeline when this all happened, or are you
Well, I've got about £35 million worth of property to sell on the market at the moment, so I'm trying to keep upbeat about it all, as you can imagine. So we've just borrowed 20. I just borrowed 20 odd million off the government to do a finisher. We take on a lot of difficult residential projects, really, more challenging ones, and we just finished, fortunately, 150 flats overlooking the river in Ipswich, so that's a nice scheme. But we don't always, we do very small stuff as well. I don't just do big stuff, but I'm also I've been asked to start a high net worth property fund. So and we hope to raise sort of 15 million or so. We'll be able to spend 15 million odd to start with it on,
Yeah.
and that really on mainly residential portfolios. But for instance, if you come across some commercial with residential upstairs and you've got clients who don't want the residential or don't want the vacant space upstairs, we do a lot of PD. So love to hear from you on those.
Okay.
You know, if you've got any clients who want to buy the commercial, not interested upstairs, we buy a lot of that type of thing off people.
Okay.
But,
No, that's interesting.
You know,
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, it's a large portfolio of which it's got some residential in. We'll take the residential, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Delighted to, yeah.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I mean, I think there's going to be so many opportunities of retail to resi now, so it's going to be really interesting.
The trick is picking the right ones.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So John, sorry to disturb you guys. We have John, we have a call at 5.
Oh, you've got a schedule. Got a schedule.
I didn't know I had a schedule. I was so impressed. I've never had a schedule in my life. Suzi, thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to this collaboration.
Yeah, do.
Guys.
Great to speak to you both.
That would be great. Super. Thanks,
Cheers.
Suzi.
Yeah, good to speak to you. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
All right. Take care.